no formal introductions, but hey, I finally got to see the director's cuts of both Rebel Moons, both parts one and two. Yeah, I will say that I like part one more than part two. Now, part one had a lot of Paul Gerard feeling to it. In fact, I would kind of say that this is goth metal lore for part one. Part two is kind of a bit of a waste of time. But part one was really good. It set up a lot of things. Um, you would say that part one and part two had both halves of a complete story. But part two felt like more the same. Now you get to part one, yes, there's a lot of sex between. And it's so dumb too. It's like it's between Cora, right, the one that's played by God, I'm gonna Sophia Boutella, and then this one guy, and the one guy that she's getting it on with, uh, he dies like he gets his throat cut by the bad guy in the second movie. So this first one had a lot of creatures, had a lot of different kinds of creatures. A Spider Woman, a guy with chandelier or lights on his candles on his face, a woman with horns, different kinds of creatures, different kinds of beings. And the beginning of part one was really good. It had a new intro, and it was well worth it. It was very dark, and it was very punishing. Um, there was a fight between, I think it's Belisarius, or I forgot his name. I think Belisarius is the king, isn't he? And you have the admiral. The admiral and Cora fight, and we assume that the admiral's dead, but of course he lives on. There were a lot of great darker moments, and I think that are really, I mean, the sex scene is great. You know, the sex is, it's throwing each other around sex. The beginning where the guy says, "Okay, we're gonna fuck and we're gonna eat." It's like, hold on, woman. Before I do my manly duties, we must do a toast. At the beginning, I guess because, and also Anthony Hopkins is in there as the machine. But I was thinking of Anthony Hopkins playing the king in the beginning of the movie Beowulf. If you ever saw Beowulf with Anthony Hopkins and Ray Winstone, and it was such a great little movie. It's a CGI movie. It's all CGI, and it was made back in like 2006. I think they were doing HD DVDs. Such a great thing. So part one really had a feeling of just it was darker. It had people said fuck and shit and motherfucker and all this stuff, and it was like it was fantasy space, but doesn't matter. They could just speak in all kinds. I mean, like in Star Wars, you can't say fuck. I mean, one actor wanted to say fuck, right? And she couldn't do it. She was not allowed to do that. I think it was in either Andor. I think it was probably Andor that she wanted to do that. So she didn't get to say fuck, but can't do that in Star Wars. Disney also would have a problem with it, but you can do it in something like Rebel Moon. You see the fembot coming out of the saloon for some reason. It follows Star Wars to a T, but it has dirty language. It's more for adults. I would say I was okay with it. Um, she gets it on with the second guy. We'll get it. We'll get into all this, but basically, she's with a male partner, and then she's fucking around with the first guy for a laugh. There's the soldiers, and there's the one teenage boy soldier in the whole fucking like battalion, and he's looking at the pretty girl on the farm. It's a tale that could have been done better. I mean, it has been done better in Star Trek Enterprise. When they had the Klingons push around the farmers, but it was always kind of stupid because how did the settlers ever take care of themselves without a police force or guards? I think the early philosophers of our time in the BC era, right? During the Bronze Age or during the time of Gilgamesh and Uruk, before the Romans really settled, a village needed to have three things. You had to have the mothers and the children, right? The nurturers, the farmers. You had to have the men who were hunters, and then you had the guards who protected the village. So they were missing a step, right? Both in Enterprise and in Rebel Moon. So due to the more adult themes where they throw dead people's bodies and they add teeth to a little mural. They take people's teeth out of the people they slaughter to show force. And so, based on the darker themes, using people's like fertilizer waste to power a giant engine in the ship, all these dark themes, right? The Paul Gerard aspects. Paul Gerard had nothing to do with this movie, but I like the dark gothic aspects. I shall give this an A minus. I shall give part one an A minus. It's well worth to watch. Not too often though, but it's well worth watching. And now we get to part two, which is redundant. Yeah, this is where the robot catches up with these guys here who are spying on the villagers. I just didn't care for it. I just didn't, honestly. I think the thing is that part two had some. It basically was Cora fucking the guy, and I don't know if it's supposed to be her brother or what the story is with the guy. I don't know what the dude's story is. She had sex with one guy, then she had sex with the other guy. Like it was like each moment was this exactly the same as the other moment. I'm like, why are we watching Cora fuck two different guys in exactly almost the same amount of time and like in this soft porn way? Why are we watching that? Like, I'm not a prude, and I think it matters when it matters, whether it's in that 50 Shades of Grey or it's real intimacy between two genuine characters. But why is this happening? I don't understand what's going on. So more of the same things are happening, and because there is more time, of course, the Admiral is killed in a horrible way, which I knew was going to happen as opposed to the more PG-13 version where he just like falls to his doom or some shit like that. I don't know what happened. But he gets stabbed from behind. You know, Cora has a plan. They train the villagers to be strong. It's basically Star Trek Enterprise, but it's rated R kind of shit with Star Wars theme, and it's Zack Snyder. So you just, it's, as I say, it is what it is, but is it enough? I kind of feel honestly, it's like I didn't miss much for this, and you get the backstories and everything, but the first movie, I like the way that she got General Titus. Cora recruited General Titus at the Coliseum, and I thought that was really good. The way she recruits all the different heroes was excellent. So the second movie felt like it was trying to explain everything from the first movie, but in a slightly different perspective. It's almost as if you're schizophrenic, so you're beside yourself. So one person tells the story of Rebel Moon one way, and then you yourself, or me, myself, and I. So me explains it one way, myself explains it another way, and I just writes a paragraph on and tweets it out. So that's kind of like three different people explain the same story. So Rebel Moon parts 1 and 2 feel like the same story explained slightly differently. Okay? Because this time, in the second movie, the Admiral's dead. And now the King's going to have to do something about Cora, or whatever her real, Arthaleus, or whatever her name is, who thought she had killed the Princess Issa, but the Princess Issa lives, according to General Titus. How does that work? Could you have imagined, let me say this while we get a proper image here. By the way, I'm giving part 2 director's cut a solid C. It's C, I don't know what to say the C stands for. Crappy? A little crappy. This is where Cora, of course, infiltrates the grand ship. I think it was the, what was it? The Soking. The Soking. I call it Soking ship. The Soking ship that flies around. You had fighters. You had people in fighter ships, but like they just came out of fucking nowhere. I don't know what that's about. The problem with part 2, I think, is that what pisses me off, and it kind of reminds me of Firefly, you have sexy, hot-looking people that girls will spread their legs and plant their seeds in because they're sexy male model-looking actors and sexy women, and everybody has a girlfriend and a boyfriend automatically because that's the way everything's kind of forced together. Everybody has a girlfriend, everybody has a boyfriend, everybody's happy. You have the only one teenage boy in the entire fucking battalion, even though there should be more young men and even women in the battalion. It should be more complicated than that. But no, he's got to fall in love with the pretty girl, and you just like like as I'm snapping my fingers like the Adams family here. You just know what's going on. You know all the chess moves. You know the next 10 chess moves to checkmate. You know what's going on because everybody's hot for each other. There are no guards to protect the village. There's no hunters either. I think everybody's just a farmer. They just make grain. I mean, don't these people go out and hunt for like meat? I think they're supposed to, right? I would think. I mean, it's just it's like a metaphor that it really is an actual like conceivable thing. I think Superbad's more realistic that a village full of farmers that only get grain and are somehow in perfect health, even though they don't have anybody protecting them. No police officers, no soldiers, no guards. The only soldiers are the ones who are against them. And it's like, in some ways, the admiral was right to do that because these people can't even protect themselves. So now they have to be protected. It's kind of weird. But obviously, they're assholes too. So I don't know. It's just, and everybody's hot for each other. Everybody's, falling in love perfectly with the other person. And it just, I just, and everybody has this cult way of speak. We're all part of each other and we all belong together. And it's just so fucking fake. And I can't take that shit. I can't take it. It eats my insides out. So no, I don't really care for it. So I would say we'd average out to a B for both. But I would say that if you had to watch any of the Rebel Moon uncut stuff, watch part one. You're better off with part one. Don't worry about part two. I'd rather have Cora have sex with the guy she doesn't give a shit about than the guy that she was there with. Why did she fuck him in the first fucking movie? Like, why is she there with him in the second movie? Like, okay. She tells him, I will miss you. And she goes and they go and fuck around and shit. Like, okay. I do not know. It's just dumb. And yeah, Anthony Hopkins robot. I mean, I liked in the first movie that the girl was about to get raped and everybody was looking out for her. That felt real to me. But the farming felt fake. The characters felt fake. The setup was fake. Those people wouldn't have lasted. You just take whatever grain you can and get off the ship, get off planet. Like like Cora would have to have known that at some point, what if these people go after them? She should have encouraged some sort of way, because she got a drop ship in the second movie. She should have encouraged them to get off the planet, go somewhere else where there's fortification, fortification and guards and soldiers and police who will look out for them, and they could raise a proper farm with meat and milk and all the fine food, all the four food groups, right? And to take better care of themselves because the way that they exist is unrealistic. Besides the fact that they all look like sexy actors and shit, and they're all talking cult. We are all in this together. We love our love for each other, and this is who we are. It's like, oh god, I just want to get the fuck out of there. Like I just couldn't stand it. More Justice League, please. I couldn't stand it. Yeah, so that's it. Goodbye. Good luck. Better movies out there. There's Alien Romulus.